a very exciting set of panelists today. Before we kickstart the panel, some basic housekeeping rules. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the session, and keep your questions and chats coming in, keep your social media account alive as well. You're most welcome to tweet what's going on, right? And then there'll be a recording of the session that will be posted on the YouTube channel. You can take a look at it later as well. So with that, on that note, good afternoon, hello, namaste. We have today Shauravi, who's the co-founder of Slurp Farms with us. We have Deepak Agarwal, co-founder and CEO of Auric, very exciting brand again. And Anuj Berry, who is the program leader for Amazon Launchpad, also has joined us. So we have three exciting people who are in the thick of D2C action today. I want to kickstart the proceedings with the lady entrepreneur here, Shauravi. Shauravi, just for us, people who know a bit about Slurp Farms or people who don't know about Slurp Farms, share with us your journey, your co-founder, and how pandemic has been an influence in your business, challenge or opportunity. Please, all yours.
Thank you for having all of us here. By the way, that was the nicest starting music I've heard on any call. It was certainly a very nice, peaceful, relaxing start. Hello to all the people who are listening in. I'm the co-founder of Slurp Farm, and Meghna and I started Slurp Farm now almost 5 years ago. Our journey started because, at the time, all of our friends were asking us to bring them food for children back from London, where we lived at the time, and we couldn't understand why that was the case, because there's definitely lots of food for kids. And I think that on closer inspection, what we realized is that there was this gap in families where, say, both parents were working, maybe not living with their parents, wanting to find things that they ate in their childhood, in their own homes, but not able to find it on a shelf. So there was like this need amongst parents like us. And Meghna used to work in the public health practice at McKinsey. So she was seeing the childhood nutrition statistics, both on the sort of, undernourished and overnourished or obese side. And they're quite scary on both ends in terms of diabetes, and how the first sort of, in your first 10 years, if you get food right, you're able to live a disease-free life. But, Vidya, we were talking earlier where people look for the cure, but sometimes prevention comes even in your later life health outcomes by getting it right from the first day. And so it started a journey. It started a journey of two corporate career people looking to understand food. So I would say part of the journey was that we knew nothing about how to do this on a retail basis. And actually that's what made it better, because our starting point was not to accept this is okay, or you need to add that ingredient, or you need to do it this way. Our starting point also always used to be, I make it like this at home, so why can't that happen on the shelf? And that really was the journey. And then, our kids grew older, so we have a range of different things. I'll keep it short, but we make everything from cereal to then, kids got older, so we started doing cookies. Then I was on a holiday in Coorg, and my son was like, I'm never allowed to eat, those sweet chocolate cereals with milk. So I was like, that's true, we should make a better one. So we started making that. And then, they grew older, were on the bus, so they needed a bus tiffin. So almost in some ways, the company has grown as our kids have grown older. And so Anuj, you had a cake, and that was because during COVID, as two working moms, our kids were baking all the time and they were not making very healthy cake. And so we were like, we can fix this. And I think the last thing to add there is that millets have been a big part of our journey. We believe these are India's super grains. We want to champion them, bring them back into how people eat every day. Not just as a once in a while thing, but there's a whole breadth of different millets, and you should eat them instead of popping the pill, because each millet gives you a different micronutrient.
Fantastic.
And how to bring that back. And so how to bring grain diversity back into your diet is what Slurp Farm wants to do, but by making it cool, making it fun, not making it seem like a chore or something difficult to do, right? And
Yeah.
underpinning that is that millets are grown by marginal farmers. Millets
Right.
have are born organic in a way. Actually, part of the journey started because we wanted to be fully organic, then found that hard and realized that these are ingredients that use no pesticides, no fertilizer. And it started because the lady who worked in my grandmother's house knew how they were grown, and so that started a dialogue there. Um, and so that is a big part of what we do, but it's a
Yes.
part of our R&D process and how we like to formulate things.
I
It
would
is
want
harder.
to delve deeper into what you guys do, your products. Slurp Farm as a brand name, I think is very catchy, and I quite understand what you mean, saying that you want to get those traditional food habits in a sort of in the modern world that we live in terms of how do you package and make it exciting for people to adopt. And I think it's a big journey, and there's a whole segment of people wanting to explore that is healthy, but there is also an education process involved. I'll come back and talk to you about that. I want to listen right now from Deepak. Tell us, Deepak, about Auric and Auric journey, because what I see is like some very exciting packages around Ayurvedic drinks. I mean, to be honest, I've not sampled your product yet, but I want to hear more from you about Auric. Tell us your story and how's pandemic been for you guys.
It's an ideal situation for me since you have not tried the products yet. After you hear the story, maybe the products will, taste better and sound better. But nonetheless, Shorvi was part of a corporate career at Unilever, spent 9 years there. During my last role at Unilever, had a simple question on mind. People buy shampoos and creams for a purpose, for a benefit, be it anti-dandruff for shampoo or fairness for cream. But the same consumer ends up buying a food or a beverage for taste and refreshment. And that's quite surprising that what goes inside your mouth is for pleasure, but what goes over your body is for purpose. And that was the first hint towards the natural living and a healthy living culture finding its ways through the purpose-led brands and the purpose-led consumption. It helped me with the fact that I have been a long sports enthusiast. I played badminton representing Haryana State, was also part of the university soccer team. And in one such match, I had a backbone fracture, which led me to 3 years of physiotherapy. In physiotherapy, I did not help me. Like most of the people, I turned towards yoga. And 5 years of practicing yoga made me realize that yoga actually works. So I thought if yoga works, maybe other ancient forms of wisdom like Ayurveda should also work. And that's how my conversation around Ayurveda started. While I was getting educated around Ayurveda, I started convincing my friends and family to adopt Ayurveda. And I would receive all kinds of funny answers, weird answers from them on why not to adopt Ayurveda. Things like it reminds me of days with my mom when she had to force a spoon of safi in my mouth. Then there was thing like it's a dark science. I don't know whether it works or not. And the worst of them was the strong correlation that Ayurveda today brought forward with respect to the right-wing political philosophy and the Hindu religion, which for me was jarring. That's a typical marketeer's mistake. Ayurveda as a science started long before cultures and religions were even invented. So from that perspective, making an Ayurveda an insecular or an unsecular religion or a culture or a science did not make sense to me. And I just thought that this needs to be done properly. This needs to be done in a simple, convenient, and aspirational way for people to be able to understand Ayurveda. And if millennials understand turmeric latte more than haldi ka doodh, then Ayurveda needs to speak in the language of turmeric latte, not haldi ka doodh. As simple as that. If we want millennials to carry the flag of Ayurveda in the future. And that's how the two things added up together, make a purpose-led brand together with making Ayurveda simple, convenient, and aspirational. And the two things came together to make Auric, where we are making essentially a purpose-led Ayurveda for millennials. We are bringing Ayurveda closer to millennials. We started off first with coconut water-based Ayurvedic drinks, followed by Ayurveda-inspired tea, coffee, hot chocolate. Recently, we made a specific Ayurvedic blend around plant-based protein powder. And slowly and slowly, we are trying to bring Ayurveda in all kinds of drinking occasions, eating occasions, and hopefully very soon personal care occasions also. And that's where the brand is positioned at this stage.
Oh, fabulous, very exciting. And I also see that you've got a huge range of products. How do you sort of, if I may ask, crack this whole challenge of being healthy as well as being tasty, right? Because right, I think that's a big challenge, isn't it? I mean, did you do
Absolutely.
consumer surveys and?
I think the first challenge comes in the minds of the consumer. There is nothing like healthy but not tasty. It can be either tasty or it can be healthy and tasty, right? So from
Right.
that perspective, your first problem is solved. You have lesser options to do the R&D with. Second thing is that when you consider about Ayurveda, you need to be very clear about the fact that is it the turmeric that is working the wonders for you, or is it the curcumin in the turmeric? Because the moment you are going to differentiate between the two things, you will know what is lending the aroma, what is lending the taste, and what is lending the benefit.
Correct.
And we are able to segregate these three things very well at a molecule level that allows us to have a particular strand of Ayurveda which goes into the product, and a particular strand of Ayurveda which goes into the aroma and the taste and the color and things like that.
Fabulous.
So from that perspective, that distinction at a molecular level help us devise products which are healthy and tasty at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much. Anuj, I mean, you're working with, as part of Amazon Launchpad, you're working with so many exciting brands that are coming up online. What can you share with us, in the last year or so? What has changed? What has been your experience? And I'm also aware that Shauravi and Deepak are also part of your ecosystem. Tell us more about the Launchpad as a program.
Actually, Auric was launched on Amazon thanks to Anuj. We were welcomed into the Launchpad thanks to Anuj. So yeah.
So Anuj, spill it all. Spill the beans.
Yeah, so when I saw the other panelists for this session with I was actually very happy to see both of them part of the Launchpad program itself. And I've tried both their products, obviously great products. Sure, we were speaking about this before the session. So Launchpad, just a bit about the program itself. It's a program on Amazon which is meant to help startups and emerging brands in the consumer space kind of reach more customers. And obviously with Amazon being a large marketplace, we do get a high customer footfall. But our idea behind this program was that the needs for startups and emerging brands are a little different from some of the other seller cohorts that we have on Amazon. So we basically built this program as actually a two-sided initiative, because for the customers on Amazon, this becomes a single destination where they can actually come and discover all these unique and up-and-coming brands who are trying to create new products, which usually have some sort of uniqueness and differentiation in them. And at the back end, we have a program where we handhold and support these brands, navigate the complexities of marketplace, and generally lend all kinds of support that we can. Right. So that was the idea behind this program when it started back in 2017 and 2016. And over the years, we've had more than 2,000 brands actually going through this program, and which have been part of our journey as well. And very happy to have both Slurp Farm and Auric as part of our program right now as well. So that's just a little bit about Launchpad and how it came about.
Right. So, so since the topic is about building D2C brands, I just want to get a sense of from all of you. Generally, is it like the flavor of the season? Is it here to stay? Is it a quick growth hack for emerging enterprises, whereas legacy brands are taking it easy or considering D2C or a hybrid model like Phygital? I can understand, pandemic has accelerated the adoption of D2C brands, and then we have about 500 million smartphone users in the country. I want to get a sense from each one of you, what do you guys see in your respective line of work, and your views on D2C brands itself, right? Because coming from Lever's kind of background, it's a very different retail experience. But online, I think we need slightly different skills. First, I want to hear from Shauravi and Deepak, and then I want Anuj views from you as from an industry observer perspective. Shauravi, over to you, please.
I personally think D2C is here to stay, but it'll be one of the channels. I want to take you back to 2016 when Anuj was probably launching Launchpad at the time. We had about 3 months at Slurp Farm operating in a world which was very different, where you needed a C form to go from Delhi to Gurgaon. 2017 happened, Amazon entered grocery in a big way, GST happened, and demonetization happened. I think those three things led to the ecosystem and infrastructure buildup that you are seeing for D2C today, 5 years on or 4 years on, and it's here to stay. It is it has enabled young people from any part of the country to reach everybody immediately. So, I always say big thank you to Amazon, because overnight we were able to reach every postcode that they service, which is most of them. And I think that it is not sort of a fad or a trend, but what you're seeing in more developed countries, which have had a D2C trend for a longer time, is how online then grows to meet offline. So you have, I think the nice thing is it gives brands like ours a chance to incubate, to prove product market fit, to prove customer adoption, and the ecosystem has really come around to support that.
Yeah.
And then if you survive and make it through, then you can play in the world of offline and really take hold and be that brand that is there for the next 100 years. Whereas earlier, you had to have a lot of capital to even do that stage.
Right.
And I think that there is no doubt that D2C is here to stay. It's so easy, Shopify has made all stores look the same. You go in, you pay with one click, basically, right? There's nothing that beats that convenience.
But particularly for a brand like yours, which is a food brand, a consumption brand like that, how do you sort of, without the sort of offline retail experience, right? How do you sort of sample, help people sample your products? How do you determine the SKUs when you can't observe what people are buying, right? How do you sort of say, what flavor? I'm only trying to understand the challenges and opportunities of being D2C brand, right? What kind of data, what kind of understanding, consumer understanding you guys develop? I know you have a breadth of experience before you launch this, but it's still a millets, packaged millets in very interesting formats. It's a new category by itself. Tell us more.
So we actually tried to go offline first at the same time as we did our Launchpad. And, many brands that came after us have not bothered to do that, rightly so. And that was an interesting experience, because when there is no brand awareness, you can go plaster your product in every shop that you see, but no one is going to pick it up. So digital definitely is the way to speak to your customer and get insight. In the first 2 years, I have read almost every Instagram message and comment, every email message that comes back. More importantly, when you are a young, founder-led brand, you can be on Facebook groups and speak for your brand and listen to the feedback directly. Digital allows you to do all those things, right? And it allows you I'll give you one anecdote and then over to Deepak. The gap between marketing and sales is 2 seconds. So if you try to organize your company in these sort of old world org structures, even, you are missing a trick, because the marketing person has to do sales. There is no distinction. You've got to be able to think sales always. So our entire team is the revenue and customer team, because we only think of the customer and we think of revenue. So I definitely think that your insight generation and analytic capacity is strongest because you're digital and you're not wasting a lot of capital to do it. Versus you put yourself out in the store, you'll get returns, you don't get paid. That is a big problem. You don't know if anybody's heard of you. So you need to meet your customer at a point where they get informed and they can buy in that same moment almost.
I mean, the one fundamental question I always want to know is, it's such an exciting brand name to hear, Slub Farms. Tell me, how did you guys come about this name Slub Farm itself? It could have gone so many ways,
Yeah,
right?
it's very easy to, the first brand is the easiest. So we were three founders sitting on a table wanting to do something. And Umang, who's our third co-founder, said, and we were like, yes, great. And then 2 days later, our lawyer was like, absolutely not. That's so generic, you'll never get a trademark. She was like, put something after it. So I still have the email. Then we messaged a school friend and it was like, what second thing can we add? And then we chose farm and we chose an illustration. We have 7 animals. They're all, animals of our childhood. So there's a rhino from Kaziranga, there's an elephant, there's a tiger, there's a parrot, there's a bear. They're all like stories that, when you were young, you used to see the bear and the monkey in Delhi in winter on the streets. So there's 7 animals and the farm is an animal farm. So Slope Farm is first storybook is coming out next month. And the idea is that food is about stories. Kids eat food while hearing a story. Right. So that was, a 5-6-year-old dream, which is coming to fruition today. Right. But that's how the name really came about.
Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. Deepak, sticking to the topic of D2C, what have been your challenges? I know you mentioned about Launchpad. How did people discover? How did you create a preference? And I know the story itself is kind of unique, but still, what has been your experiences?
Right. The experience has been fantastic, and very much like Shaurvi mentioned, we also actually one of the few D2C brands who decided to go offline in the first few months along with being online. And we were, again trying to delve with deeper into the consumer psyche to understand what works and what does not work. And that gave us a lot of insight on the difference between a category creator and gaining market share. And that's the kind of differentiation that really helps you to understand whether you want to go ideally a D2C brand, building the traffic on your website, or whether you would want to acquire your consumer on an Amazon or something like that. Because the way the two technologies happen and the way the consumer awareness happens and the way the traffic flows from top of the funnel to bottom of the funnel in the two strategies is absolutely different. Where just like Shaurvi mentioned, the difference between a sales and a marketing is just 3 seconds, which is very, very true in case of Facebook and getting the traffic to your website and doing the transaction. But in case of Amazon, that may not be true because the search is really the one which is driving a lot of traffic for you. So you need to be present in the right search algorithms. You need to be present in the right search keywords as well. So our experience has been very similar. People do discover brands online. They love to have the brands available offline also, no doubt about it. But at the same time, the luxury of no barriers to entry in an online D2C only world allows entrepreneurs like us to actually find a footing in the door of the consumer, which is generally not true when you have a distribution led company only. Because it's easier to get the product in the store on the shelf, it's supremely difficult to make the consumers take those products away from the shelf. And that is where D2C and the ecosystem of Facebook, Amazon has really helped for brands like us to find a say in the heads of the consumer.
Sure. Before I come to elements of pricing and packaging and content and how you guys promote, Anuj, tell us, like you mentioned about 2000 brands are there. How do you do justice to so many brands on a platform from a discoverability perspective? I think, isn't that a constant challenge for you guys?
Right. So 2000 brands was since inception. So that's not the number of brands right now. But discoverability is always one of the prime asks and our endeavors as well to solve for, right? Because on Amazon, like we recognize that when a new brand starts out on a marketplace, there is a challenge in actually getting your products and your brand in front of the customer. And then actually, like Deepak was also saying, it's also a challenge to get the customer to make the purchase decision or convert the customer essentially, right? So while it is important for us to surface these products in all the right places within Amazon, and we have different campaigns, different marketing levers, social media handles that we can actually use to give this visibility across many different brands. We also have a Launchpad storefront in itself, to which we drive a lot of traffic, and that's like an aggregated place where a lot of these products and brands get highlighted. But it is not just about actually driving traffic to like a particular page. There are a lot of other behind the scenes elements which also need to be worked on by every brand actually, which is selling on marketplaces. And some of these elements were talked about, I think, earlier. Things like keywords optimization, for example. What are the keywords that you want to bid on? When do you want customers to actually discover your product? There are options for advertising as well. But that advertising also has to be managed very closely by the brands, because you also need to have a good understanding of where you want your products to pop up. Essentially, when a customer is actually at the point of purchase, there are additional options which they can consider. And do you want to be in a certain consideration set or not? Like, what's the bids and all of that you want to go with? So there are a lot of other elements to actually becoming discoverable, and not just simply say banners or any sort of marketing assets which you see on.
Yeah, I hear you, Anuj. I mean, I think the challenge, I think, is, if you are selling it directly from your site, on the fly, you could make deals, right? For example, if I go to Slurp Farm website, or if I'm going to Auric website, the algo should be able to pop up and bundle or unbundle products, right? If I'm buying something for, say, 500 rupees, I can make an offer saying that, add this cake mix, which is 200 grams, or I can give you some, I don't know, I'm just saying, add another something for additional for, you can make up those package deals.
Right.
But on Amazon, you are, you can only sell what is already been displayed or agreed upon, right? You can't make those changes on the fly.
The flexibility, I think, is what you were referring to, which is definitely there. I think while being a marketplace, there's like limitations in terms of how flexible we can be. Whereas I think for D2C brands, when you're operating your own website, there's a lot more flexibility there.
Yeah.
But our endeavor always is to actually create new products and features which do actually add value to D2C brands in a similar way, and build the sort of experiences which these brands are looking for, right? And that can be to do with sort of flexible promotions, like you mentioned. It can be elements which help brands bring out their brand story and what they stand for, what's their value proposition, right? And just like apart from that, we were also talking about data and how the brand acquire insights, right? So there's a lot of tools that are already available, but we also continue to work on new ones, which can actually surface relevant information for these brands to actually have meaningful insights with which they can then actually fuel that innovation and that like new product development and new adjacent categories which you may want to explore. So we do want to enable all of that on Amazon as well.
All right.
I want to just say one thing, right? In our journey, we may have grown up, on Amazon, but we are still part of Launchpad. And we do that because A, the team, but B, what you provide in terms of the ability to tell your story, the help with the cataloging is unparalleled and very, very, very crucial for brands at our stage. So, people always say, oh, I'm doing now this much. Should I still do a launch pad, or should I do launch pad because there's a cost associated? I think that it's a no-brainer, and it really does something in terms of even the search algorithm. I didn't know, Anuj, that people actually go in and search, only for launchpad products. That was something that was a nice surprise to us. So to any entrepreneurs who are listening, it's a really, really, really nice way to get brand discovery.
Right.
And I'm sure you can make 100 better algorithms or improvements on it, but it really does something for brands like ours who nobody knew, right, at the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand from a sales platform perspective, but tell me, Shoravi, like, as a brand's love farms, people come to your website, they discover you on Insta, perhaps, or on YouTube, yeah, and like I alluded earlier, how do you build the sort of customer acquisition process or the education process? Because it's a shift in mindset, and I know there are certain people who are open to it. I don't know, maybe it's an urban phenomenon. If you want to go beyond the urban population, what's your sort of consumer strategy, if I may ask?
I think, okay, there's a twofold answer to that. In terms of the consumer strategy, I think if people inherently see value in your product, both from a price, but taste and what it does in your life, and you solve a need, you can, be tier 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 1, wherever you want to be.
Yeah.
And so our strategy has always been that, right? In the beginning, I would say we were positioned aspirational. It looked a certain way. There was products. Now, as we grow, we have all kinds of fun things. You have Sattu Mavu. We're going to, I can say it here, launch a panjiri, which is like a very typical thing that you eat, when you're pregnant. So I think that we will continue to do macro level things, but then go niche and address people's specific local tastes and needs. There are a lot of such products incubating, things that you would find in your house, and they may be local to a specific area or a part of India, but they should be easily available to children anywhere. The other thing, I think, in terms of can you appeal to a consumer beyond your day one consumer who may be the metro consumer on Amazon? Yes. And I think that we have to believe in that story. There are like probably 30 American mega cities, right? Today we are thinking 4 cities, 5 cities. They are going to be those 30 cities. We will build and position ourselves for that time, which is not that far away. And so what we see is tier 2 or 3 are going to be large urban populations with equal aspirations. And, people are eating protein shake and peanut butter across all parts of India now. It's not a metro phenomenon. And we will meet that consumer there in the way they want.
I see. Deepak, what's your experience in terms of, because I looked at the pricing of your product, it is a premium product, right? Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. We always need to fight our battles. And the first thing that you need to understand very clearly is what are the proxy drivers that you're using for pricing your product. When we were launching these coconut water-based Ayurvedic drinks, we understood that coconut water is a good proxy to have as a pricing. When we looked at the coconut water pricing of fresh coconut water is anywhere from 33, 34 rupees to 45 rupees in the fresh segment. In the package segment, it is anywhere from 40 rupees to 50 rupees, depending upon whether it's a 200 ml or 250 ml. So what we knew is that that's a benchmark price at this moment. If you are able to capture the coconut water market share, we are happy with it. As simple as that. Now, then you start looking at it. What is a premium that you want to have on coconut water? Is the coconut water market large enough or not? And then you start looking at whether it's a 25% premium, 40% premium, 2x, 3x, or whatnot. The place where the D2C brands need to look at their pricing is not from an MRP perspective, but it is from a post-discount perspective. Because almost every single D2C brand ends up giving a discount, whether it's a lower discount strategy of 5 to 10% or a higher discount strategy of 35 to 40%. And what the consumers are actually paying from their wallet is the price after the coupon code is applied. So what we essentially looked at it is if Dabur or Paper Boat is selling their coconut water for 40 rupees at 200 ml, that essentially translates to 50 rupees into 50 ml. Our MRP is 75 rupees. We give a 15 to 20% discount and it ends up being a 60 rupees product. And that 60 rupees product is hardly a premium of 20 to 25%, and that's fine. Because at the end of the day, people are going to come to you if you have an interesting story, interesting proposition, and that to an interesting packaging. If the three things are not coming together, then the premium is any which way is going to disappear. And that's the reason why while the consumer perception might differ from place to place, but we are positioning ourselves more as a mass premium because the premium would be more like 100 rupees, 120 rupees, the cold pressed juices, 130 rupees and also. We are somewhere between the coconut water and the Red Bull rather than the Red Bull and that one. But that's for one product. And when we launched our tea, coffee and hot chocolate, we had exactly the same thing. That while we are launching it at 2x the premium, for the repeat customers, we are selling them at the same price as the largest mass brand. So if Tata Tea is for 500 rupees a kg, we tell people that you buy our membership and you will get our Moringa Masala tea for the same price as Tata Tea. And that's why a lot of people subscribe to our lifetime membership. So our consumer acquisition was built on the brand story and the proposition. Our retention strategy was built on the mass pricing to premium pricing.
No, fantastic. But the challenge also is that when you have so many of these product categories that you opened up, like coconut water or moringa tea, it can be a little, overwhelming for a consumer, right? Unless I go specifically on a Google search and look for something in millet or something organic, how do you even pop up, right? Like, how do you even get discovered? Like, because, right, unless I know I'm on Amazon and I'm searching for a product, otherwise I'm always exploring something healthy, something nice and tasty, which is also organic, right? So I don't know, how do people discover it? And then what are your challenges, right? When you have such a big product portfolio to push each one of them, that itself is in my mind is a big challenge. How do you go about doing that?
Right. So I think the first step that any brand needs to keep it very clear that what is it that they're going to stand for. When Auric decided that we are going to stand for purpose-led Ayurveda for millennials, we wanted to be the brand resonant with Ayurveda for every single share of wallet occasion or any single occasion of consumption, as simple as that. Now, when you look at that wide domain, you also need to understand that the cost of building a product at this stage in the country today is almost nothing. If you are willing to put your heads in the right place, then I can tell you very simply that it takes less than 50,000 rupees to actually build a product. And then if you're able to also do a little bit of right R&D, right resourcing, right networking, you can also ensure that you're not building your own infrastructure to launch those products, right? If you do these two things together, then you can actually play the food game the way personal care companies have been playing for the last 3, 4, 5 decades. Personal care is always built on niche occasions, and it is always built on one proposition, but multiple niches. And this is where I think the food and the beverages company will also have to start thinking from a personal care perspective. Why can't a 200 SKU product sit inside a 500 crore brand or even a 100 crore brand? And that's the kind of fundamental that, at least at Auric, we are trying to challenge. We have kept ourselves very lean in terms of being an only online brand at this stage. And we will continue to be so in the next 18 months, at least. But in the same time, we want to make sure that we're churning out good products at a great speed and reaching out to as many consumers as possible. Now, you as a consumer might enjoy your cold beverages, but you might not be a cold beverage person, but a tea person. So will you not have the luxury of introducing Ayurveda in your cup of tea? Why not? And that's where we thought that while we are not going to be only a tea brand or a coffee brand or a drinks beverages brand, we are going to be making sure that we are Ayurveda for everyone. And that's where we keep on bringing out new products at lesser than 50,000 rupees, as simple as that.
Oh, fantastic. Shaurabi, when you're creating a category like this and then you're building a portfolio of products, right? Today, are you aiming for newer people to come in and sample your products or existing people to buy more from Slurp Farms? What's your approach and experience been?
So we never try to go after categories that consumers don't already consume in, because habit change is hard. Building healthy habits is hard. So I'm not going to create some newfangled product that my consumer doesn't already have as part of their life. That's one thing. We only aim to build or make yummy things which can build very strong repeat and retention. And that is the only way that like you endure, right? Unless you have a very high sort of price point product. So across marketplaces, we have 40% plus retention. On our own website, it's a bit lower because we are also growing and acquiring new customers all the time. But our goal is always to make very, very sticky habit forming things. And if you look at each of the product categories, it is things that children are already eating, either in a, there's no children's shelf. I always say there's a dog food shelf, but there's no children's food shelf. And that is, just time and evolution that will happen, because like you create a personal care category for children, you will have a food category for children. And so people are already eating all the products we make, maybe as an adult brand. But I'm definitely not going after like making, I don't know, astronaut food in any form. It is, cereal, noodles, vermicelli, pancake, dosa, snacks. So from 20 rupees up to probably the most expensive product is 399. And then we also, have a few oils and ghees we do, which cost more. But we will meet you in what you are currently consuming, because I cannot change everything about how you eat.
I see. Okay. So Anuj, the question to you is that, brands that are on Launchpad, they're also, they're probably selling offline or they're selling through the websites. And then you have a huge repository of such brands. What specifically, Launchpad does for these brands in terms of promoting these brands, or the keyword recommendations? When you have competing brands, it becomes that much more challenging, right? In the same category, you have multiple brands, multiple food brands. How do you sort of optimize the needs of so many brands that are on Launchpad?
Right. So on Launchpad, actually, we want brands to essentially succeed everywhere, right? We understand these are new emerging brands, and it would be a disservice to actually have them only, for example, concentrate on one channel. It's natural for a D2C brand to actually explore other channels as well, especially given the term D2C, the directly owned channels particularly, right? But on the marketplace, we basically want to make the selling journey easier. And there may be brands in the same category, but very often their positioning is slightly different. There are different elements in terms of whether they have, for example, a marketplace strategy as their core or something else. But for a brand who does want to engage with us, we actually start with them right from launch itself. So if you're a brand who's not already selling on Amazon, we will start right from scratch and help you set up your account and get you launched. From there on, we will start with certain hygiene things, which are considered to be like housekeeping for any brand who wants to sell well on Amazon, right? But if you're new, you need to learn some of these things. Now, what content goes into each of these assets is going to be different, but this is basically about a lot of different branded content assets where you can bring your brand story to life. You can actually pitch yourself to your customers who are landing on your page on Amazon, because essentially that's your salesperson, right? Your detail page on Amazon is your salesperson. So you can set that up in certain ways using certain features and enhanced rich content which helps you put across that story. And then there's a lot of other tools around advertising, data analytics, which we also help brands access, understand, and then if required, kind of generate custom insights on. And then apart from that, there's obviously the marketing and discoverability, which we already discussed, is one of the much requested and sought after areas as well. So we do try to help with that as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, thanks for that, Anuj. I think we'll open up the Q&A session now. I think there's been a steady stream of questions pouring in. There's a question to you, Shauravi, from Madhusudan Nambudri. It says, hey, Shauravi, great story. Give us some insights on, like, do you have a team internally manage the digital right from the beginning, or did you have an agency to manage? I think it means the brand building and digital communications.
So I would say we've done most things in-house, but obviously we've also used agencies along the way in our journey. And I think one of my learnings that was interesting, right? You will flip in and out of do-it-yourself agency at different points of your journey. So I would love to know what specific part of the journey it's more helpful to talk about, but I'll just say a few things. One is that we've always done branding in-house, and that is our third co-founder, because we feel that is really integral to who we are. Digital marketing, we have, always had a team in-house, but worked with different people, from advisors to agencies, to help us understand that and grow that. Someone said something very nice to me, which was the best thing that you could do is just be in the game, because you'll keep learning and you'll keep working with different people, and some will work, some won't. So there's no right answer.
Yeah,
and there's no silver bullet. Sorry.
Yes. I mean, I think there's also another question, I think, that came from Srividya in terms of the community and content, in terms of brand building. How much do you lean on, a consultants or agency, and how much do you do yourself, right? Particularly when it comes to design and packaging and all of that stuff, you need experts involved. But when it comes to digital communications, do you lean on the experts' help, or do you do it yourself? I think that's the question.
I think it depends what you enjoy a little bit also, what brings you strength maybe as the founding team or the key leaders within a company. Definitely at Club Farm, we love doing that ourselves.
Right.
And whether it's the best way to do it or not, juries out there, maybe brands do it differently, but we enjoy it. Every part of community, content, and engagement, and trying to build that funnel of content, then community, then commerce, is very, very, very much personal and founder-led, and not made up either.
Yeah. Okay. The question, I think, for the entire panel, I think there's a question from Amit Sharma who's saying, please share some insights on D2C for education domain, right? So I know if you want to treat it as another consumer brand and talk about it, Anuj, you want to take a shot at it? Do you have any experience on education domain? Any thoughts on D2C?
So we do have some actually educational products. I'm not sure exactly what category of products within education we're talking about here, but there's, for example, a lot of these STEM education toys which have come up on Launchpad in the past, and some of these brands have actually gone on and done quite well, coming up with very innovative educational products for kids. There are also education products that we can support on Launchpad. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to serve apps or services. That's a different sort of an ecosystem altogether. I think that's also kind of D2C. But I think the insights there would be very different from the consumer retail related insights which we're talking about here. But I think a lot of the fundamentals remain the same. We were just talking about community building, for example. Those aspects will continue to hold true. whether you're a service or an app as well in the education space.
Okay. No, thanks. Thanks for that. I think there's a question from Nilanjana again to you, Anuj. I think she's got launching an Indian heritage brand out of the UK. She's asking if she should get in touch with you or your UK colleagues.
Right. So that totally depends actually where she would want to launch her products. So if you want to start with India, you can definitely get in touch with the India team. And we are a global program spread across different marketplaces where Amazon is present, including the UK. So if you launch in India, we can always put you in touch with the UK team for Launchpad to get support there as well. But it totally depends where you want to start your journey.
Sure. So we have time for a couple of more questions before we wind up the program. The question is to Deepak and Shauravi. How do you manage various supplier and contract manufacturers? Are you leveraging any B2B commerce platform to manage them?
In short, the answer for us is no. We are not using any platform at this stage. Once the recipe is done at the lab scale, we tend to co-create the manufactured scale recipes with the suppliers out there. So when it is about, for example, flavor houses or be it about the Ayurveda houses, we work together with them at the time of lab sample itself. And then we have to scale it up and partner it with a manufacturing platform. We generally go the other way around. We try to look at which finished goods platforms are already available in the country and therefore which is the chassis that we want to partner with. For example, when we were planning to launch our coconut water based Ayurvedic drinks, we saw three trends that juice as an industry is degrowing. Juice is seasonal, so works for 6 months, 6 months is idle. And juice is standardized all over the world thanks to Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So we decided to standardize the chassis of our coconut water based processes to juice manufacturing so that every 500 kilometers there is a factory where we can partner with and we don't have to invest into our assets. And hence we just figure out our formulation and our quality team goes out there to make the batch. So I think it's going to be a combination of a lot of collaborations working together with suppliers, which is going to help you rather than going for a particular platform at this stage.
I see. Shauravi, your thoughts on suppliers, contracting? You have your own factory or you outsourcing them, third-party manufacturers?
I've been to almost 200 factories across different tiers of India. That was actually the starting point of the journey for Meghna. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I miss those days. We don't have any app or B2B sort of process to manage our co-manufacturer. I think that was part of the question. But we are very closely integrated with any partner that we work with, including our own team that will be based there. And it takes us a long time to identify, people who meet standards or things that we trust. At the same time, we do not manufacture on our own. I think that at the stage that companies like us are, it is challenging to try to do all parts of the cycle, right? And then when you get to the very large end, you notice that all the really large FMCG companies are doing exactly this. So maybe what we've seen as a trend is at our end and the other end, no one does it on their own. And in between, there may be a phase where people manufacture on their own. But I would say that great partnerships have been the bedrock of what we do. And certainly a lot of good energy and positive vibes for the co-manufacturers who worked with us because they were our first VCs.
Yeah.
Really, they really were. And in some of the things that the owners of whom we work with have said, just amazing.
Okay, awesome.
I absolutely agree with that. In fact, this aspect is so much less said about in the entire ecosystem. I still remember the first manufacturing partner that I went to. He actually said that आपके साथ में healthy drinks बनाकर मेरे 18% शुगर की ड्रिंक्स जो मैं पिछले 15 साल से बेच रहा हूँ उसके पाप धुल जाएंगे. He actually mentioned that thing, right? Now, those are the kind of things that actually boost your confidence. And at the same time, they were ready to take the punt when you wanted, MOQs very small, which was, 1/3 of their batch size. And they were probably not even making money. The only thing that we can do for them in return is to, stay with them longer. So that when we grow up, they make benefit out of it.
Right, right. No, these are very useful practical insights. There's a question from Srividya Sridharan. For a fairly new D2C brand, would you recommend growing organically on portals like Instagram, or should we jump into paid promotions? I think it's a valid question. When do you sort of decide that we organically put out content, and when do you decide I need to start spending money on Facebook or Google?
If you have money, you might spend it, but otherwise organic in the start is always the way to go. It also brings out your truest voice.
Sure.
And you'd be surprised how far it can go, when you are really crunched. And in some ways, you asked the question in the beginning, how was pandemic? It made us realize we are strong. You don't necessarily need a lot of money to keep going. You can make it work. And so both are fine. Both answers are okay. As long as your product is great, you'll find how you want to do it. And obviously, paid marketing will bring you bigger reach. So
Sure.
there's no A or B here, actually.
Understood. No, this segues into a very interesting question from Vaibhav. Tell us more about your journey before and after getting external funding. When did you feel the need to get Series or Seed A funding, external funding? Right. So is it the compulsion to spend on marketing, or is it much more? What sort of prompted you? Because there's a huge debate also, in the world of D2C. Do you still need VC money to fund your growth? Right. So open to both of you to share your thoughts.
Sure. Sharvi, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
So, Auric started selling products in 2018 November. For close to 2 years, rather 2.5 years, we didn't raise any VC money. We invested from our own pockets about $1 million and up, right? And at that moment, a couple of angel investors had joined in who had also put in $100,000 here and there, right? And during this entire journey, trust me, while it might sound like and feel like on the newspapers that raising VC money is like the biggest karma that you have done to your past life and all those kind of things, it's all in the media, right? It's not that easy. Raising money is not easy, and then spending that money to grow the business is absolutely not easy. I have now spent 2.5 years burning my money, and then I have also spent last 7-8 months on growing the business with VC money. It's not easy at all. So from that perspective, I would always suggest that if you think that your ambition is being met without raising external VC funding, then go for it. If you feel that you want to grow at a faster pace, at a velocity at which your ambition is going to be met, then raise external money. Because at the end of the day, you are going to fall. You are going to do 10 trials, and probably 7 trials are going to work and 3 trials are going to fail. But at the same time, you're going to discover new borders and new oceans only after you do those trials. And the luxury of that VC money just allows you to do 7 things correct, 8 things correct, and probably, make those 2 bets or 3 bets, which might turn out to be a sixer, or you might get out on a duck, right? So from my perspective, having been 2.5 years on bootstrap capital, investing my hard-earned money, family's money into the business, and now VC money, both of them have their own pros and cons. I think it's a matter of ambition. Which one are you going after? As simple as that.
Got it. Shauravi, you can't shy away from this.
No, not at all. I'm not shy about talking about this at all. You might have to shut me up. So tell me, okay? You just put your hand down and say stop.
Sure.
But for me, it was ulta almost. I did finance. I worked, at the Virgin Group. So almost my savings from venture in some way is what funded my own. and inspired my own, Richard Branson, all of that environment was hugely inspiring. And then I think that raising money is a responsibility. It's not something to celebrate personally.
Sure.
And I think that be it capital from a debt source, a bank, a VC, an angel, it's your responsibility to keep your company going. And
Right.
too soon we celebrate that, but it's not the end of the journey. And entrepreneurs actually know that doesn't mean that you made any money.
Right.
So there's that dichotomy, I have a friend who's like, oh my God, the newspaper is full of all these headlines, but I'm still struggling, So there's that aspect of it. I think that in the journey of fundraising, we've been really blessed, very lucky, but also we have always looked for people who bring intellect and advice beyond the money.
Understood.
So I literally, if I were to pray, and sometimes I write down what I wish for, it's always, dear God, please send the right partner my way, send the right, the right energy, the right, someone I can learn from, someone we can work with, someone we can really build and has the same core ethos and value system.
Understood.
And that is what we have chased. And for us, in some ways, Fireside has definitely been that. It's been great fun. And then before that, we had a lot of angels.
Right.
And it was cute. It was like this motley crew. Each person has like one different thing they brought to the business.
Right.
And I must say, I've enjoyed that. I think if I were to say something useful for the people listening, you should think about whether you want to raise institutional money earlier on or not. We definitely took some time. We bootstrapped very long. Whether that was right or wrong, I don't know, but it allowed us to make a few mistakes.
Right.
And to make them with our own sort of, okay, I did it. It took me longer. It's my
At your
journey.
own cost. Yes.
I was also 7 months pregnant while fundraising the second time. No one blinked an eyelid. No one asked me any weird questions. I want to say that to any women who think, oh, is this the right thing, wrong thing? No, just have conviction in what you do and your product will speak for itself. And you will find like-minded people to support you.
Fabulous.
And really, 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 like, it's such a crazy environment right now. It's very easy to raise money, but find money that supports whatever you want from it. You might say, I don't want the advice, I know what I'm doing, then go find that partner. You might say, I love advice, I want to work with people, I want to be in a collaborative partnership, then go find that.
Understood.
But whatever you do should be in sync with you.
I think that's great. I mean, thanks so much, Shauravi. I think so, very practical from your heart kind of thoughts. I think with that, we will come to an end of the session. We close the session. Thanks, Anuj, for sharing all the thoughts about Amazon Launchpad. Shauravi, we really appreciate what you're trying to do with Slurp Farms. I think it's a very exciting journey. I need to try out your product. I haven't had a chance to do that as well. Deepak, wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. Deepak, wonderful having you here, and all the very best for Auric's journey.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and thanks to all the attendees for being part of the session. Hope you found this as exciting as I found it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.